Imagine a honeymoon that is no longer a private romance, but a global stage. When Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sanchez stepped aboard the world's most luxurious super yacht, one question captivated the world. Is this tea? They called it the wedding of the century, but what stunned the world was not only who got married, but the way the entire event was transformed into a global spectacle. Power couple Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sanchez didn't simply choose a private romantic ceremony. They chose Venice, the city of love, art, and history, and turned it into a grand stage where the media, paparazzi, and the public all fixed their gaze. From the cobblestone streets to the glittering canals, every detail seemed orchestrated to suggest that this was not just a wedding, but a cultural event. Yet questions began to creep into the public consciousness. Was this truly a story of pure love, or a meticulously crafted script? The photos of the dazzling gown, the bride's radiant smile, the groom's commanding presence, all seemed too perfect, provoking whispers of doubt. What was hidden behind that brilliance? When the ceremony ended, eyes remained glued to them, and then curiosity erupted as Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sanchez did not retreat into a secretive, quiet getaway like so many celebrity couples before them. Instead, they stepped aboard a colossal super yacht, longer than a football field, with interiors custom-built in sheer opulence. This vessel was not just a yacht, it was a floating fortress, a domain where romance, power, and image converged. At that moment, the world realized this honeymoon was not a vacation. It was a bold declaration, a second act following the wedding, one even more controversial and captivating. Speculation swirled endlessly. Was Bezos, the billionaire long criticized over Amazon's labor conditions and environmental impact, using this extravagant honeymoon to reshape his public image? And was Lauren Sanchez, journalist, pilot, television host, now stepping into her role as a new symbol of global elite power? The story quickly transcended the boundaries of a wedding. It became a symbol of the billionaire era, where love, wealth, and power no longer exist separately, but are woven together in a public performance that makes the world both marvel and doubt. After the lavish wedding in Venice, the spotlight should have dimmed. But for Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sanchez, the curtain had not fallen. It had only just risen on the second act of a colossal spectacle. The honeymoon, normally a private, quiet escape, a vanishing act from the cameras, suddenly transformed into a worldwide premiere. The super yacht emerged, colossal as if conjured straight from a Hollywood fantasy, leaving the world in awe. Photographers scrambled for every angle, tabloids dissected each new image, and social media erupted like a storm. And then came the question echoing everywhere. Is this truly a honeymoon, or a meticulously orchestrated PR campaign? The images told their own story. Champagne glasses clinking under the golden sunset, laughter echoing across the decks, designer outfits making fresh appearances each day. Everything seemed too perfect, too polished to be random. Whispers grew louder. Perhaps every detail was choreographed, like scenes from a blockbuster film, each frame calculated to broadcast a carefully crafted message. Jeff Bezos, once tied to an image of cold calculation and ruthless efficiency, appeared to be sculpting a new persona, a man deeply in love, joyful, and willing to share intimate moments. Meanwhile, Lauren Sanchez, long cast by the press as ambitious, opportunistic, was now reframed as the enchanting, adventurous partner who brought warmth and spontaneity into the billionaire's life. Together, they projected an image so flawless that the public found itself torn, caught between admiration and suspicion. The world split sharply into two camps. One side saw this as a modern-day fairy tale, proof that love and extravagance could coexist at the highest echelon. The other dismissed it as blatant excess, a shimmering facade masking contradictions and criticisms. And it was precisely this divide that fueled the true drama. Because this honeymoon was never just about two people in love. It had become a battle of perception, a stage where every smile, every embrace, every glimmer of Mediterranean light became ammunition in an invisible war between admiration and condemnation. In the end, the yacht was not only a vessel, it was a mirror. It reflected how the world reacts to power and wealth in the 21st century, with awe, with skepticism, with envy, and with outrage. And as the ship sailed further into the horizon, it carried more than just two newlyweds. It carried the weight of a narrative that captivated millions, whether they believed in its romance or in its performance. Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sanchez's wedding closed like a dazzling spectacle, but what followed afterward was even more shocking. Their honeymoon bore none of the quiet intimacy of a private getaway. Instead, it resembled the premiere of a Hollywood blockbuster, where every detail seemed designed to stir the public's imagination. And the world, like an audience before a giant screen, simply could not look away. The superyacht, longer than a football field and as magnificent as a floating palace, became the centerpiece of every conversation. Paparazzi lurked at every angle, drones hovered above, tabloids and blogs churned out endless streams of images and videos. Each leaked photo unleashed a new wave of speculation. Is this true romance or a meticulously staged production? Bezos and Sanchez seemed fully aware that they were not merely the protagonists of a love story. They were symbols of the billionaire age, where love, power, and luxury fuse into one inseparable narrative. When they clinked champagne glasses under the Mediterranean sun, the public did not simply see two people in love. They saw a message, image control, a declaration of influence, and the power to redefine what happiness means among the super rich. This is what made the story more dramatic than ever. Because while many hailed it as the fairy tale of the 21st century, just as many skeptics dismissed it as reckless extravagance, an ostentatious display of wealth, tone deaf against the backdrop of economic instability and climate crisis. The clash between admiration and condemnation transformed the honeymoon into a public arena where every move, every smile was dissected and judged. And in the middle of this storm, what intrigued people the most was not where they went or what they did, but rather, what story were they trying to tell? Was it a narrative of passionate love, a carefully crafted branding campaign, or a bold proclamation that they are a power couple the world cannot ignore? For this reason, Bezos and Sanchez's honeymoon was never just a voyage. It became a global stage, a production where the audience was drawn into a game between authenticity and calculation, between romantic light and shadows of suspicion. And the more people speculated, the more successful the performance became. If the wedding was the opening act, and the honeymoon aboard the superyacht was the next chapter, then the public's reaction became the true climax of the entire story. For never before had a honeymoon transformed into a global debate. Glittering Instagram photos, grainy drone footage, opinion columns across the media, all came together to form a multi-layered performance, where love and power fused into something both mesmerizing and controversial. The sheer opulence of the yacht did not only inspire awe, it sparked outrage. Environmentalists condemned the massive carbon emissions such a vessel consumes, while economists compared its operating costs to the budget of an entire small town. For those struggling with inflation and economic hardship, the image of champagne glasses raised on the deck became a symbol of the widening gulf between the wealthy and everyone else. Yet, another camp saw something entirely different. To them, this was a modern-day fairy tale, a powerful tech billionaire and a glamorous journalist writing a new chapter of love together. For this audience, the smiles, the embraces, the designer gowns were not just displays of excess. They were proof that happiness could exist even at the highest levels of wealth and influence. It was precisely this divide that turned the honeymoon into a mirror of society. No longer just a private journey between two people, it became a lesson in how the modern world consumes wealth, with desire, with envy, and with resentment. And as these debates grew louder, a paradox emerged. The more people criticized, the more they watched. The louder the complaints became, the brighter the spotlight shone. Instead of fading into the background, this honeymoon evolved into a cultural event, one that the public could not look away from, whether through the lens of admiration or the glare of skepticism. Amid the storm of debates, Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sanchez remained silent. No public explanations, no official statements. Yet sometimes, silence itself is the most powerful message. Because when their images flooded newspapers, social media, and television, every smile, every embrace, every glance already became a language without words. Observers quickly realized that, rather than responding directly, the couple chose to let their images tell the story. Bezos, long known as a cold, calculating strategist, now seemed intent on reshaping his image into that of a simpler man, one capable of savoring life's intimate joys. Meanwhile, Lauren Sanchez, long speculated to be opportunistic and ambitious, appeared as a softer presence, a partner who brought balance and warmth into the billionaire's world. But the question haunting the public was this: where is the line between authenticity and calculation? Those moments, the laughter on the yacht deck, the sparkle of champagne glasses, the sunlight dancing across their smiling faces, were they spontaneous or carefully staged scenes meant to redefine their image in the eyes of the world? That question turned the honeymoon into a dual-layered performance. On the surface, it was a magnetic love story, full of warmth and allure. Beneath, it was a brand strategy, meticulously crafted, where love and power did not merely coexist, but reinforced one another. And it was precisely this ambiguity that kept the public talking, unable to look away. For in truth, the modern world is obsessed with contradictions. We crave to witness opulence, even as we denounce it. We admire fairy tale love, even as we doubt its sincerity. And Bezos and Sanchez became the embodiment of this paradox, bold enough to flaunt extravagance, yet shrewd enough to weaponize it. In the end, their honeymoon was not just a vacation. It was a pivotal chapter in the narrative of their public identities, a moment that forced the world to ask, is this love being lived genuinely, or is it being scripted into the perfect story? A honeymoon is usually seen as a quiet escape, a time when couples step away from the noise of the world. Yet for Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sanchez, privacy seemed to vanish altogether. Instead, they turned their voyage into a live performance before the crowd, where every moment was captured and dissected by the public. Paparazzi lenses missed nothing, from champagne glasses raised beneath the sunset to laughter echoing across the yacht's deck. Fashion blogs zoomed in on every outfit Lauren wore, while business outlets broke down the yacht's operating costs, fuel consumption, and crew salaries. Beneath every photo came a flood of divided comments. Some admired the elegance, others condemned the ostentation. The world suddenly realized this was no ordinary honeymoon. It was a public declaration where intimacy was not hidden but amplified. Bezos and Sanchez did not retreat from the spotlight. They embraced it, making public scrutiny part of the script. And that very choice made the story more dramatic. Were they proving that in the billionaire's world, there are no secrets? Everything can be transformed into a tool for image building. What unsettled the public most was the blend of authenticity and choreography. Those relaxed smiles, those tender embraces, were they genuine expressions of love or carefully curated moments designed to paint a flawless portrait for the world to see? This lingering question clung to the audience, turning the honeymoon into a game of images and emotions. As the colossal yacht glided across the turquoise waters of the Mediterranean, the realization became unavoidable. This was not simply a holiday, but a spectacle of power. And in this production, Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sanchez were not only the protagonists, they were also the directors, shaping their honeymoon into a story no one could ignore. As Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sanchez's super yacht continued its journey across the Mediterranean, the story no longer seemed confined to love. It evolved into a cultural symbol of the billionaire era. Instead of vanishing from public view, they chose to step fully into the spotlight, inviting both admiration and judgment from the world. On social media, photos from the yacht's deck became triggers for loud debates. One side saw them as proof of romance, of opulent love at its finest. The other saw them as shameless excess, a provocative display in a time of global uncertainty. This stark divide ensured the story kept spreading. The more critics attacked, the more people followed. The media dissected every angle. Business outlets calculated fuel consumption and operational costs. Environmental reports warned of massive carbon emissions. Fashion magazines exalted Lauren's outfits as new standards of luxury. Each outlet offered a different perspective, but all agreed on one truth. This honeymoon was no longer private. It had become a global event. What stood out most was the couple's silence. Neither Bezos nor Sanchez addressed the mounting chatter, yet their very silence deepened the intrigue. Perhaps they intended their images to speak for them, turning every moment into a piece of a carefully crafted rebranding campaign. And in a paradox, the quieter they remained, the louder the world became. For this was never just a love story. It was a declaration of power and image, told upon turquoise seas in the language of extravagance and camera flashes. And in an age where every move of the super rich is scrutinized, Bezos and Sanchez's honeymoon became a mirror reflecting society's obsession with wealth, admired and doubted, desired and resented, all at once.